Storytelling! What is there to do, and how do I get started? My name's Farron, and I'm a storyteller. I've been teaching, performing, and competing in the Kingdom of Ontario since about 2003, when my sister introduced me to the society. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, well, storytelling. Where do you start? What do you do? And where do you go? Probably the first place you started, and certainly the first place I did, was a joke with a good friend. Telling a story or an anecdote of that one time with that one person doing, that one thing, and soon enough, just like this picture, someone's laughing. This is a great place to start. This is where a lot of storytellers in the SCA get their first beginnings. Sitting around a campfire, telling jokes. Okay, so it's not always jokes. Sometimes it's stories. And in the SCA, my absolute favorite thing to do is to walk from campfire to campfire, telling a good story. In fact, here's one that I recorded September around 2012.
Afternoons and the evenings you'd hear little chirping. Who is the king of the birds? Well, the first bird to come forward was Umquaze the eagle. Umquaze the eagle strutted forward and said, I should be king, for I am beautiful and I am strong. No, I should be king. Owl came out. I am wise and my eyes are large. And all of the birds, one by one, came out and said, I should be king. No, I should be king. And finally, when the birds were out chirping and arguing, excuse me, it was Umquaze. It was little bee-eater bird who would run around and eat all of the bees. He said, excuse me, I think that any bird should be able to be king. I think there should be a contest. I think that whoever can fly the highest should be king of the birds. And all of the birds looked at each other. Oh, he has a good point. He must be a small bird. But that is a good idea. I think we should do it tomorrow when the sun rises just above the hill. All of the birds gathered around, thousands of them on the plains of the Sahara, the plains of Africa. And there they waited as the sun moved slowly up, and it came to the top, and they lifted all together. And off they went to the skies blotted out by their wings. And first the small little birds went, and then the medium little birds went, and finally only Umquaze the eagle and owl were left. Umquaze and owl, Umquaze and owl, until owl fell down, though he was happy, for it had been a good fight. And Umquaze burst with his wings one last time up. I am king! I am king! Excuse me. The little beautiful bird had hidden himself in the tail feathers of Umquaze the eagle, and he jumped up, and he had all of his strength left, and he was about 3 feet up from Umquaze the eagle, who had spent all of his strength in that great mighty victory dance. And all he could do was circle down with hate on his face. And there was the bee-eater bird fluttering down. I am king! I am king! You think all the birds, after seeing what little bee-eater bird had done, wanted him as king? No. All of the birds chased him and they said, we are going to pack out all of your feathers! And the bee-eater bird, whoa! And he flew up. And he flew flew into a snake hole, and all of the birds, thousands of them, surrounded the snake hole. But they had just run a great big race, and they were very tired. Who shall watch over the hole while all of us rest until we can pluck out the feathers of this upstart bird? Owl came forward. I shall watch the bird, and Owl placed himself with his large talons on either side of the hole, and all of the other animals, including us, went away to sleep. Are you okay?
Yeah, we're good. Sorry. Fine. Sorry.
An owl sat there as the sun set and the moon rose. And he too got frightened. Well, Owl knew that he had two eyes, and he thought he would rest his right eye. He rested his right eye first, and then he opened it, and he rested his left eye, and he opened it, and he rested his right eye, and then he rested his left eye. The little beekeeper bird saw that Owl was asleep and off into the bushes. And just then, the sun had come up, and Unquaze saw the beekeeper bird running away, and Owl sleeping. Owl, what are you doing sleeping? And Owl woke up, but the beekeeper bird was gone. And that is why today, the little beekeeper bird runs from bush to bush, trying to avoid all of the other birds plucking out his feathers. And it is why Owl stays awake during the night and sleeps during the day, so he doesn't have to listen to all the birds laughing at him.
That was a lot of fun. And I love telling stories, and people love hearing them. But that's not all there is to do in the SCA concerning storytellers. We don't just go from fire to fire telling stories. Well, okay. We like to, but there's other things as well. Research! Okay, not everyone's as excited as I am sitting down at the public library on a Saturday afternoon to look up, well, the geeky thing that I do. But research is a great starting point for trying to do other things with storytelling in the SCA. And we'll get to those interesting things in just a moment. Let's go over a few basics, though. One of the big missions of the SCA is to teach and learn about the Middle Ages. Now, if you're just sitting around your campfire, telling a story or telling a joke to some friends, it really doesn't matter too much. But when you want to step beyond the campfire into perhaps a competitive setting, or you want to start teaching, or you want to do service for the kingdom, there's an expectation of education and research. So, a few things. First, choose a culture. Now, as performing artists, and storytellers especially, we don't have as strict a persona. Yes, I have a name, and yes, my name does come from a particular country. But when I tell a different story, like an ancient Greek story, or a more modern 15th century English story, I'll change my persona much like I change my clothing. So what I really mean is choose a culture, or a genre, or just a set of stories for the particular project you want to do. I'm speaking from the setting as a storyteller, so I sit and talk about stories. But you could be a juggler, you could be, well, you could be a puppeteer. Nonetheless, you've got to start somewhere. Once you've found them, do a little research about who they are, their customs, what kind of food they eat, where they live, if it's rocky or plains, etc. This gives you a basis to include details in your stories and your work. Then to the library. For new storytellers, and even myself, I go to the kids section. Start by looking up the culture, or if you have a genre, looking into that. Children's books have an innate ability to redact the core of a story. A lot of what a storyteller does in the SCA is find a large body of work, pull out the important bits, and tell them back to an audience in a 5 to 15-minute story. A children's book does this automatically. It's meant for children with small attention spans, and so jumps from main plot point to main plot point fairly quickly. Once you've got the main plot down, sit down and start reading more about the culture so that you can add your own cultural details to the story you're about to perform. Then go and find the more historically accurate version. Once you have this core concept in your brain, it'll be easier for you to attach the material you research to the story you're going to perform or present in front of an audience. Remember good documentation habits. You picked up that good book, you found the good part, put it down on a sticky note. Page number, author, book name. Then when you're building your bibliography or you're citing it in a research paper, you've already got it right there. You should look at my books. They're scribbled in, they're written on, they have sticky notes, they have files attached to them on my computer. It's interesting. Which brings us to one of the things you can do. Now you've sat down and researched a story, you can teach a class. Make a little synopsis of your thoughts for a handout, create a bibliography, sit down and write down an outline, and do it. A lot of events have small little ITHRA gatherings, arts and sciences pavilions, places where you can easily teach a class. Students are more than eager and willing to come and sit and listen to you talk about the cool thing that you just learned. And I have to admit, it's certainly a lot of fun watching people geek out with me about my cool thing. Though not as common in the SCA, long, complicated, or shall we say, entertaining introductions were very common in the Middle Ages. People had their own personal heralds who didn't just call out their name, but also told their story, who they were, their lineage, and, well, an introduction to the crowd. This is a great way to provide service. It adds ambiance, pomp, and circumstance to competition, and it really makes someone's day. Here's a clip of me introducing Duchess Miranda at the Kingdom Equestrian Championship.
We have in times past heard of great and renowned warriors. Yea, in these times we live, hear of glittering Miranda. In arms, fine strength of a lioness, the bearing of arms, if pressed, sprouting like a stag's long horns, and breaking, do it in steel, a stout, socketed thrusting lance. 14 years this battle-hardened rider, with martial music before, with fair helm and a host of retainers on horseback, has ridden on the fields of war. Before you rides excellency of storm guard, great the name, greater the realm. Great her honor, great bold title, more was given her. Champion, equestrian of Angiers, champion, equestrian of the Ghost, Mare of Blathanor, defender, Mountain's Edge. This day, Her Excellency is inspired by His Excellency, Tiernan, Duke, and their two great warrior sons, Atticus and Augustus, inspired this fierce great warrior.
Your Majesty, may I answer your list?
We'd be proud to have you here, champion.
Thank you.
And I think this is one of my favorite ways to give service to the kingdom. Introducing people, being part of their ceremony, being part of the cool thing that they're doing, and creating community. Sometimes we think of, oh, the archers, oh, the equestrian, oh, the heavy fartiers. But really we're one community, and the more we crosshatch, the more we interweave all of our talents, the cooler this thing is going to get. And I have to say, sometimes it gets really cool. After you've heralded for a while, after you've been doing some competitions and presentations, sometimes someone taps you on the shoulder and asks a commission. Here's a little excerpt of the stepping up of King Tiernan that I did.
Clear rang out the call of heralds, swift came the battle lords, snake-like striking, nimbly dancing. Though battle-weary, each lifted bravely spear and eye. With strong back and death-practiced arms, Sven and Tiernan cast their swift spears. As lightning they struck, and in Chesoth's sheath drew first. Brave warriors these who fight near death's doors, blood-bright warriors, 'twas one-handed Tiernan drew first. Long-shadowed spear cast in fate's great glory. Brave Sven received the second blow. Unshakable in battle he, in shield maiden's arms was great Sven bore. In evening's cloak, warriors rested. Shield maidens mended, great shafts removed. Sven healing sleep found.
Yep, I've got to admit it. That was a whole bunch of fun. Getting tapped on the shoulder to come in and do a performing arts piece for the king, for the populace. It was really great. But this isn't something that just sporadically happens. We don't really have a culture yet where people do performing arts pieces for other people on commission. It happens occasionally, but this was something that I really brought about on myself. I started asking people, hey, can I write something for you? Hey, would you like some better words to go with that? Hey, hey, hey. And soon enough, I got people asking back saying, yeah, I would like some words with this. Sure, come on down and do this thing. Do you have a moment? I like your voice. It's not something that's just going to come and land in your lap. Just like your research, you've got to put some effort into it. Get yourself seen. And, well, that brings us to the next part. Competition, which is a great way to get exposure to an audience and get known throughout the kingdom. There's everything from shire and canton level competitions to baronial championships, all the way up to Kingdom Bardic Championship. Which, here's a little piece of advice. Go to KBC. No, seriously, go to KBC. The next time you can, when it's close to your area, go, watch, do the student judging. If you're feeling brave enough, do the single entry. You've got nothing to lose. For single entry individuals, the judges are really nice. What they're doing is giving you a set example of feedback for where you're at. And if you're not there, they're not gonna rip you a new one. They'll sit there and write out some things that you can work on. It's also a great way to network. I found at least 2 or 3 really good friends by going to Kingdom Bardic Championship, or Arts and Sciences. That's another thing. A&S, performing arts, they're not exclusionary. You can certainly do your performing arts thing at any A&S thing, as well as a storytelling competition. Just to give you a little bit of a feel of a difference between formal commission piece, something around the fire, and something for competition. Well, it's a little goofy, but I like it. Here's an excerpt from Pyramus and Thisbe that I did for an Ermine Karas competition in 2010, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my lords, my ladies, those who sit on cushions like those who do not, this very evening, me and my troops shall be putting on the great, the innumerable, Midsummer Night's Dream. And this, I shall tell you, a small comedic interlude. There was 2 houses. One of a great gentleman named Pyramus, who each morning would stand up and the sun would shine upon his beauteous face and he would look in the mirror and fall in love yet again. And across the way was Thisbe, oh, beauteous Thisbe, upon which the moon itself would shine, and I, such envy there, and she would awake each morning, and at about 10 out 5, peek through a hole in a wall and say, oh, he is so beauteous. And it was that Thisbe there would see in that hole all the beauteous of Pyramus, and Pyramus in that hole would see the beauteous of Thisbe, and through that hole would see it, and yes, they would fall in love, and to Nina's tomb would they run, and each their own direction. First, it was Thisbe who arrived upon the tomb. Where is my beauteous Pyramus?
As you can see, it's not all serious, it's not all silly, and there's a lot to do. I think that's enough for now. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My name's Ruagano Farron, and I can be found on any number of lists. I hope you enjoyed the film. I hope you learned a few things, and have a good day.